big question this morning, you'll be hearing about it all day. Is the James Comey memo a turning point for the GOP? Well, what's the proof that we're seeing any change? Senator John McCain was at a dinner, and he leveled one of the harshest criticisms about the president yet. Here's a taste.
I think it's reaching the point where it's of Watergate size and scale and a couple of other scandals that you and I have seen. It's a centipede, and the shoe continues to drop. And every couple of days, there's a new aspect of this really unhappy situation.
Joining us now, Republican Senator Susan Collins. She is a member of the Select Committee on Intelligence. Always a pleasure to have you on New Day, ma'am.
Thank you, Chris.
So, do you share the urgency and characterization of Senator John McCain? Do you believe it is time for an independent commission to look at these allegations?
The Senate Intelligence Committee, on which I serve, is vigorously pursuing all of the allegations involving Russian influence on the campaign, including the vital question of whether there was collaboration between any member of the Trump campaign and the Russians. That is a bipartisan investigation. It is now moving apace. We have subpoenaed Michael Flynn and his records, and I believe that we will find out more from that congressional investigation about exactly what happened.
But what about these questions about the president's actions with Comey in the firing, the different stories, the divulging of the intelligence in the meeting with the Russians? Do you think that those demand completely nonpartisan appraisal, meaning an independent commission?
I think the Senate Intelligence Committee is perfectly capable of doing that kind of independent work. It is vital that our work be grounded in the evidence and thus accepted by the public once we've finished. But we should pursue all of those allegations, and that means not only getting access to Mr. Comey's memo, but any other memos or transcripts, even tangentially related to this issue. And we need to hear directly from Mr. Comey himself about what occurred in that February discussion with the president. The tone of the president, what he said, his actual words are so important. And that's why we need to hear, and soon, from Mr. Comey.
How troubling are the allegations to you about the Comey memo, about the firing?
They are deeply troubling. They raise very serious questions. The problem is that what we have now is speculation getting a bit ahead of the facts. We need facts, and that's why we need the actual documents, and we need evidence, and we need testimony from those involved. I've spent parts of 3 days out at CIA headquarters going through the documents meticulously, the raw intelligence that normally we would not see because it's not vetted. And I'm going to continue, along with the rest of the committee and our two leaders who are working together in a bipartisan way, to pursue the evidence wherever it may lead.
First, do you, after going through the raw intelligence, do you share the president's appraisal that the Russia investigation is a hoax?
No, I certainly don't. If there's one conclusion that I've seen enough evidence on to get to a finding, it is that the Russians had an active campaign to try to influence the presidential elections last fall. That, I believe, has overwhelming evidence to support it. The other questions, including the critical question of was there any collaboration between the campaign and the Russians, remains to be answered.
Now, people take that remains to be answered to mean there is none, you should have it by now, or it would have leaked, and that fuels suspicion that that part of the inquiry is just political brinksmanship and Democrats trying to hurt the president. Do you agree?
No, I really don't. The committee has taken the investigation that we've been vested with very seriously, and we are issuing subpoenas. We've interviewed, the staff has interviewed more than 30 people. We are now getting closer and closer to the principals, the names that you read in the paper, and I am confident that we will do a good job. I do think it would help if we brought in an experienced former prosecutor or an experienced investigator, and I have made that recommendation to both the chairman and the vice chairman.
Who?
Well, I have made a specific recommendation, but I think I should keep that between the chairman and vice chairman.
Come on,
and myself.
Susan Collins.
You would know his name and think that he was well qualified. Let me put it that way.
Is it Comey? Like your brother senator from Maine?
No, that doesn't make any sense at all. He's a witness in this investigation. You don't put a witness in charge of the investigation.
Two more quick things, Senator. First, there is a good likelihood that these questions surrounding why the firing, what happened with Comey's memo, was there any pressure from the president, it's going to come down to credibility. Do you believe at this point you can take the president or the White House at face value with what they say the truth is on any of those questions?
Unfortunately, the administration has given such conflicting information. The president's own tweets at times seem to contradict the statements made by his staff. And that's why we need to have an interview with the former FBI director, and we need all of the documents. And if there are transcripts, we need those transcripts as well. But I got to tell you, we don't need them from the Russians. The idea that we would accept any evidence from President Putin is absurd.
Well, what does it mean to you that you have these two different dynamics going on? One, that Putin, whether he's joking or not, was suggesting that they have a record of what happened in that meeting, and that Russia is consistently on these issues vigorously defending President Trump. What do you make of that?
Well, I can't help but wonder if this is a Russian plot to try to further undermine confidence in the president and in our democracy. But unfortunately, when the president meets with the Russian foreign minister and the Russian ambassador, he gives more fuel to the fire. So I think he should stop meeting with the Russian leaders. They are not our friends, they are our adversaries. And as far as President Putin's opinions on what's going on, I'm more interested in how he's treating dissidents, the annexation of Crimea, the problems he's creating throughout Western Europe and trying to influence those investigations, the support for the Assad regime, which the Russians are giving, a regime which is murdering its own citizens. Those are the issues that concern me about Russia. And I think that it is not helpful. I wouldn't trust any evidence that the Russians suggest that they could provide.
Senator Susan Collins, thank you for being on New Day, as always.
Thank you, Chris.
Allison.
Did President Trump obstruct justice? We will look at that question and the future of the Trump White House next.